Going to go ahead and put a tune shader on everything. We'll just leave it at that for now. And we'll throw in a Skype. That's what I want to see. All right. Now I can sort of see what my tune shader is going to be doing, what everything's going to look like, kind of. Let's see. Let's back up to 2. I think it's back to the matter at hand. Oops. I think I need to actually back up and make these things a little bit wider so they fit together better. So I'm going to kind of redo this whole thing here. This. Should make them fit together a little bit better. a little too wide still, so let's move other way. No. Yeah, I think that something like that should work. Okay. Let's try to build this chimney out. Let's do it over here. I know it's not very exciting stuff, but I figured since I'm going to be doing some boring stuff, I might as well stream it. Building out a chimney. I don't think this project in general probably won't be very exciting until I get quite a bit more stuff in here. But yeah, I just thought it would be something to stream. It seems like it's not quite. Yeah, I mean it's supposed to look rustic, so if everything's not perfectly lined up, I think I'm okay with that. Hmm. I think one thing that I'm trying to do mentally is not be so meticulous about everything, especially when it's all just going to be toon shaded. When it's supposed to look kind of rustic and messy, I have a tendency to, what's the right word, to like be overcritical of just like things not matching up perfectly. I think we all do when we're working in 3D. Um, in other art forms, you have to force yourself to be clean and organized. In 3D, you have to like force yourself to be messy because otherwise it looks too clean and organized. So I got to remind myself of that. That's still bugging me though, because it's like I move it closer on this side, and then on this side it's too close. It seems like. I don't mind if there's gaps, but it just seems like I don't want the gaps to be too big where you can see right through them. I'm less concerned about the inside part because it's going to be like facing up against the house, and not as it I mean, really, none of this is going to be super visible. So wait to do that because I want to make it kind of taper in a little bit. And the question is, do I want to do this there's going to be a ladder a ladder going up here to this platform off of the chimney, so it's just kind of a question is where do I want this ladder? Do I want it on the side? If I do it on the side like up here, then I kind of want this to be straight. I think I'm actually going to do it on the back here. So I think that'll look a little bit better. You just gotta do it. And what I want to do is kind of taper it up to a point. So going to kind of I'm doing this in sort of a crude way, but it makes sense for me. No, I just gotta make sure that I don't have doubles. Seems like I have doubles. Yeah, okay. So then what I need to do is move these in and adjust them to fit. I'm gonna have to do some manual stuff right there, manually kind of fill in that gap with bricks. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I will put like some geometry behind it so we can't see through the gaps, right? Okay, and then I'm gonna grab, how do I want to do this? There is a way I could sort of build out the whole thing with mesh, I think. I just kind of really don't feel like doing it that way, if I'm being honest. So I think what I'm going to do is separate these. And then I can just grab like one little segment at a time and kind of build out this gapped area. I could probably put like some like moss or something, like something growing up to kind of cover this stuff up a little bit. It's probably what I'll do. I'm not sure yet. Yeah, I'll probably end up covering it up with something. So I shouldn't worry too much about it. I'm doing it this way so each like little row of bricks looks a little bit different, right? And then when I get this, I should just be able to duplicate over to the other side. I don't really like this big flat area here, if I'm being honest. I feel like you need to go down one more. See, this one goes down each step. This one has like, yeah, so I have to go down one more here. You know what? I'm not really sure what to do there yet, so I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to leave it kind of blank for now because I want to think about that more. So I'm not going to worry about covering that up. I'm not going to like, I don't want to spend the whole stream of me just thinking about something, right? So let me just clean this up a little bit. Gonna grab all of these and combine them. And yeah, I'll just worry about that later. I'll look at some reference and different chimneys and stuff, so I might end up changing this chimney quite a bit. But I do want to continue that all the way up. I may have just crashed Maya. We'll find out in a second. I duplicated these faces and then it just kind of froze up. Let's see if it... Give it a second to think. Meanwhile, I will do just that. I'm going to go look up some brick chimneys. Oh, there we go. So they have like the ones I'm seeing here. It has bricks, but they're at much more of like a slope. Right, so it's almost like it's almost like it's just like one of the side little things here of bricks just like going up. So I'll probably do something like that. But again, it's like something I don't want to think too much about right now, so we will move on to something else. Forgot a row of bricks there. So that way we can kind of see it. I'm going to grab these and just hide them for now. Let's grab everything, look at our toon shader. So, see, I shouldn't be like stressing too much about it if like this is the way we're gonna see it, right? Like, I'm not really gonna see all the gaps and everything in between it. It's all just gonna be toon lines. So yeah, shouldn't stress too much about it. I think what I'm going to do, just real quick with this toon shader, is, well, that wouldn't really, I wanted to add some like color randomization to it. Well, I could still do it. It just won't be like every shingle won't be a different color, but I'll go ahead and do it anyway. So we need a jitter. And then I can change this to a color. Brown. And set this to object. Just kind of like randomize the colors a little bit. Give it a little bit more appeal. I always like to set things up where I can sort of render it as I'm working on it. It just kind of keeps me sort of psyched about what I'm working on, rather than just constantly looking at gray. Yeah, so that looks all right. Let's curious about these guys, if they're just, yeah, there's some duplicates in here. Oops. Let's do this. Let's go. Let's delete the history on this, and this should all just be one object. So let's take this and this, combine them together. And then I can delete that. Get rid of the rest of these empty groups. Keep things clean. Chimney, bricks. Okay, so what else do I want to work on here? Let's turn on default material. So I could make some planks and start kind of building out the decking. So I'm trying to do this in a way where it's all sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Things I can reuse over and over again. So I'm not like just modeling a bunch of stuff and make instances. So if I make changes to one thing, it will kind of trickle down to everything. So I'm trying to do things in that sort of fashion to kind of make things easier for me. So this is gonna be like, I'm calling this my lumber yard over here. So as I sort of make things, and I'm just going to put them over here and instance everything off of those. So as I'm working, if I do need to like make a little change or do the UVs or something like that, I can do it to the original and it will get done to all the other ones, right? I think. In theory, that's what I'm going to do. So I think what I would like to do here is build out some decking, right? So some boards. I'm gonna model like 2 or 3 or 4 different boards and kind of put them out in a line, stagger them, right? And yeah, so let's do that. And what I've been doing is anytime I make like a new piece is I'll just come up here to one of these humans and kind of build it out based off of their scale, right? So if this were sort of planks, wood planks for the flooring, probably be about this big, right? I feel like this would be like 2x6 or 1x6, 2x6 probably. And you know, it's going to be a little exaggerated. I'm not being that careful about it, but at least I'll have like some sort of sense of like relative scale, right? Where this stuff will sort of be at the size that it should be. So yes, that's about the size I want it to be. I'm going to add a little bit of a bevel to it. And we will do a perfect one. We will do a not so perfect one. So I plan to use this scene, this model for a bunch of different things, right? So like I want to do some renders. I want to use this for like a project, right? A big project where there's going to be a bunch of different renders and a bunch of different scenes that sort of take place in this environment. So right now I'm just trying to get it built for like larger environment shots. And then I think my plan is once I get closer and like start doing the interior and stuff like that, I'll just sort of build in detail as needed, right? So if my decking and stuff like that, I'm building it like very low poly at the moment. And if I ever need it to be higher poly or more detailed, I'll just make it more detailed, right? It'll be a little bit of extra work. But I think that's what I'm going to do. I think that's my attitude towards this is if I do, like, so my first few shots, my first few renders of this are going to be probably from like this far away, right? And I'm going to have trees and all kinds of other stuff in the scene. But I will at some point probably be doing some renders where, we're standing on the deck and like maybe gathering wood and stuff like that. And be inside the house, like at the front door, right? Walking up the stairs. Over here, this is going to be like a forge, I guess. I don't know. But as I need more detail for these things, I will just make them more detailed, right? So I think this is going to be, if the idea sort of comes to fruition, then I'll just kind of I'll change it as we go, right? So I'm not going to be building a lot of this stuff out with super detail at the moment. That was a very long-winded way of saying that. But I definitely want some boards that look slightly different, just to have some variation. And I'm not going to be smoothing any of this stuff. Because it is toon shaded, so I'm kind of making this with the intent of toon shading everything. So I think the hard edges will actually make it look better. See, do I want to do a hole? I think I do. I think I want to do one with a hole in it. I'm going to do one with a hole in it, and I'm going to do one that sort of would have like a hole, like a big chunk out of the side. No, I don't know. We'll see. We'll do 5. that hole is too big. So right, and then I can just target weld. Oops. Like that. Add another little edge loop. And this one here isn't really doing anything, so I'll get rid of that one. And yeah, I have a little hole. Gonna grab these edges and soften, harden. Oh, that looks kind of cool. See, now I think this one looks too straight, so I'll probably mess that one up a little bit too. But for this one, do something like this. Oops. I'm wondering if I want to, just thinking out loud here, I'm wondering if I want to use Mash for this or not. If I do, it will sort of mess up the, well, I guess not necessarily, as long as I don't delete the Mash network. It will preserve the UVs if I do change the UVs, so that is an option. I don't think I'm going to use Mash. I think I'm just going to kind of place them manually. Let's do one where it's kind of bowed. In this direction. Okay, so we will grab these and I'm going to name plank A, plank B. Important to stay organized, kids. It will bite you in the butt and hurt if you do not stay organized. Doesn't matter how you stay organized. Just stay organized. So my idea here with naming these after letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, is that whenever I start doing instances of them, which I'm going to do here in a moment, they'll be named different numbers, right? So this way I can distinguish between plank A, all the instances for plank A, and all the instances for plank B, C, D, and F, right? So I'll show you, that will make sense here in a moment. Right, so I have plank A, B, C, D, F, E, F, right? So now, when I start building out my walkway or whatever, right? I'm wondering now, I think I need a half plank. I'll make that in a second. I think I will need a half plank to fit if I stagger them, right? I'll need a half one to go on the ends, maybe two different half ones. But anyway, so now when I go to edit, duplicate special, and I'm duplicating them as an instance, right? So duplicate special. Now I have plank A1. And if I do Control Shift D to duplicate special again, I have plank A2, right? So this way I can keep track of all the A's, the B's, the C's, the D's, right? So whenever I do the UVs for B, right, it's just easier to keep track of everything, right? I often tell my students, like, don't necessarily worry about naming every little item. Just put things in groups and name the groups, which is fine. But even that, like, after a while, isn't organized enough, right? Like, when you get to a point where you're working on large scenes, which this is going to be a very large scene, right? Like, let me pull up my my peer ref. So this is kind of like the reference that I'm going off of, right? So this is going to have a lot here. It's going to have vegetation, trees. This is kind of like the main one that I'm looking at, grass and all that stuff. So if I'm not sort of vigilant about like naming everything, I'm going to end up spending like hours just figuring out, you know, where was that one object? What was that one object called? So I just can't stress enough how important it is to stay organized and name things, right? And so it's just going to be better. It's just better if you just name things right off the bat, right? Like I have a bunch of beams here. These are all instances, or most of them are instances, right? So if I, like, here's my beam. I think the only ones that aren't are these, which I'm not super worried about because I needed to kind of change those. So I made them where they're not instances. But if I change anything on this one beam, right, it's going to change for all those, right? So if I do the UVs for this one beam, it's going to do the UVs for all of them. So that way I'm not having to do UVs for a bunch of things that that are just duplicates, right? And I can spend the time getting good UVs, and I could possibly put a bunch of these objects in the same UV layout, and then I can just texture a bunch of my, like a big portion of my house at once, because I'm kind of doing this in an organized way. So I'm a very messy artist. I've always been a messy artist. When I painted and did sculpture and stuff like that, I was always super messy. And I enjoy being a messy artist, but it's just sort of bit me so much in the past where I wasn't naming things and I wasn't staying organized. And hey, it's confusing and it's stressful, right? When you have a messy scene and you don't know you can't figure out what's what. So yeah, I just can't stress enough how important it is to stay organized and continue to stay organized. All right, so now what I'm also going to do here is I'm going to put each one in a group. Right, this will help out a lot too. So yeah, I'll put each one in a group. So Control G for each one of these, and then name the group something like plank group A, right? And we'll just copy this, and then I'll group B, paste that, so plank group B. And the reason I'm putting these in groups like this is because now when I duplicate the instances, all the instances are also going to be in one group together, which you'll see here in a second. So this is going to be C. So it is, it does kind of disrupt creativity in a sense, because you got to stop and like name stuff, and sometimes you just want to be creative. So I totally get why it's not very conducive of creativity to stop and have to name everything, but it's worth it. And take it from someone who is a very messy artist, just a messy person in general. At least I think I am. And I've regretted it many, many times, not naming things properly. So now as I like grab a plank here and I do Control Shift D, which is duplicate special. Now that the groups are going to be, all the duplicates are going to be in a group, right? And then I could even put all of these planks in a group. So just make sure that you're doing duplicate special. And what I'm going to do here is just sort of organize just like a little cluster, and then I can duplicate the clusters. I do want them to be kind of close to each other here. But again, there's no point in just being too meticulous. And sometimes what I will also do is make like a little measurement cube. Like I'll just call this measure. So this will be my measurement cube, if I can spell measure right. And then I can use this cube just kind of to put in various different places. Right, so if I want to get the width of my walkway right, I'm just going to measure this cube, or kind of just scale this cube to the width of that walkway. And then I can put it over here. And I'm just using snap to kind of snap it over there. And it's just an easy way to then see how wide my walkway needs to be. Right, so this will give me an idea of how many planks that I need. And you can also take these planks, right? So I have this one with the hole in it. Control-Shift-D to duplicate. And I can just rotate it around, scale it around, so I can just like rotate it around 180 degrees in X like that. And now I will get another slight variation. Right, it does take time, but welcome to 3D modeling, right? Everything that you do is like very time consuming. Right, same thing for this one. So I'll duplicate special this one, but I'll rotate it around this way. 180 degrees this way. Whoops. And then we'll do this perfect one. Oops. Head down here. And I could even like duplicate special these guys, right? So like just to kind of make things easier, I can just say duplicate special this guy and just kind of move him over here. And I'm actually gonna duplicate special him again and flip him around. Let's see, we'll take this one and put it over here. So this is a lot easier with something like Mesh. The one thing I wish you could do with Mesh, and there's probably a way you can write a script to do this or something, but the one thing I wish you could do is, like for example, if we look at, let me unhide my bricks that I have here. If I want to randomize the rotation, I have a random node, right? So I can randomize the rotation here like this. I wish I could lock it to 90 degrees, right? So instead of randomizing anywhere, and again, there's probably a little script that I can write in there. I should ask Chat GPT. I bet there is something that I could do, but I just wish it would lock to, instead of like rotating 7 degrees or 22 degrees, I wish it would only rotate like 0, 90, or 180, right? Or 1 or 2, what would it be, 270, right? So I wish it would kind of snap to those rotations. There's probably a script that I can write to throw in there. I actually, straight up, never even thought about it till now. So I'm gonna look into that for sure. Faux show. There's also another script in bonus tools that's very handy, and I think you can actually do it with that. But randomized transforms, this is something that I do use quite a bit. There's a multiply. I bet you can do it with randomized transforms. I'll have to kind of play around with that a little bit, see if I can figure it out. But yeah, I'm just trying to make like a little grouping of these planks, and then I can duplicate them to have like a long sort of swath of them, and then I'll just kind of move them in position over here. I'm gonna have to kind of be careful about how I do it, because I don't want it to come out of its groups, and I don't think I can. Let's see, if I grab all these and rotate them, see, they're gonna rotate all kind of crazy like. So I probably should have done this in a more organized way, but that's okay. There's easy ways we can reorganize things. And if you have things named properly, reorganizing things in an easy way is even easier, right? Because you have it named properly. If it's just like p cubed 26, then it's a little bit harder, or quite a bit harder, to kind of organize things. But as this stands, right, so like I have this little cluster of planks, so now I can just grab them all and Control-Shift-D again and duplicate them all, and then just kind of put them in position. Let's see, I think we'll need one more. Right, and they're all in their respective groups. Right, so all of those are plank A, plank B, C. So we can see that we have a lot of C, D, E, F. problem is, I think I could do it, but what I'd want to do is pull these out of this group, of the groups, right? So let's take the original A out. I know this isn't like super exciting stuff. But no, so that's D1. I want D out. But it's kind of the nature of 3D modeling, right? It's like sometimes you just caught up doing really boring stuff. Okay, so now I can just group all of these, call it planks. And then I should be able to just kind of move this around and position it. I do need a half plank though, or maybe 2 half planks. But, you know, because I went through the trouble and duplicate special so they're all instances, if I do want to take one of these and change it, right, it's going to change all of them. So if I want to do UVs, I can do the UVs for all of them. So what I'm going to do for the half plank is I'm just going to actually duplicate this one. So I'm not going to duplicate special it. So I'm just going to duplicate it. And I'm going to call this plank G. Should be plank H, but plank G, it's fine. And this is just going to be a half plank. And I'm not going to get too crazy with this one, but I do want it to look a little bit different. Something like that. And same, so I'm just going to, actually I'll go ahead and duplicate special one, so Control Shift D, and then the G1, I'm going to put that in a group. And then I'll just throw that whenever I'm done sort of duplicating it around, I'll throw that into the planks group. So it definitely takes a little bit longer to kind of go through and so I'm duplicating the whole group. I don't want to do that. But it's definitely worth it in a long run if you organize. Throw this in that planks group. Center the pivot on that. And then I can just move the whole thing. Now I will need to build like a structure, right? If I do want it to look really nice and detailed, I do need to build like a structure that it sets on top of, right? They can't just be like floating planks, but we'll do that after. Let's call this planks cluster. And I can delete stuff out of these groups, no problem. And I can duplicate the groups. And I think if I duplicate the groups, they'll still stay. So let's grab this whole group and duplicate. So Control D. And then let's grab one over here. And I just wanted to test something out. Okay, so I do need to duplicate special. So Control Shift D. Let's test that out. Yeah, so that's, yeah. Do need a duplicate special. You can also take the whole group and like flip it over or rotate it around and stuff like that as well. And then I'm going to take this, just go ahead and delete that. Not sure about this one yet. How it's going to sort of interface with the chimney. So I'm just going to delete that one for now. And don't need these. Lead all the way to here. That's interesting how it's moving them both, but that's okay. I think that's actually what I need it to do, because the group is an instance. So there's also ways we can take similar objects or identical objects and make them an instance of each other again, I think. But that's pretty much what I wanted to do there anyway. So I'm not mad about it. We will revisit that at a later date. You know, I'm never really sure if I'm going to leave something like that. I can always come back and change it. And I feel like a lot of times, especially as I explain, like I always make a liar out of myself, right? So like I'll explain things and I'm like, oh, you should do things this way, but then I do them that way. And then halfway through, I'm like, I'm going to do it a different way. But you got to be willing to, you got to be willing to do that. You got to be willing to make last minute decisions, remake things, delete things, start over. That's not just a 3D modeling thing, that's an art thing. You think painters don't paint over other paintings? Some of the best painters in history, right? Like they will find these paintings and they'll hit them with like a LiDAR scan, and then they'll find other paintings under those paintings, right? So they just paint over. I think this is probably about all I'm going to do tonight. I'm getting kind of tired. Let's add the toon shader to these objects. Hope you guys have enjoyed watching. I know it's not super entertaining, but I think streaming's good for me because it kind of forces me to work on something for hours. Let's see, I do want to tweak this toon shader a little bit. Let's do an actual render. We'll end things with a nice high resolution render. Let's do like 2000. The one thing with Tune Shader is that it is sort of resolution dependent. So the higher your resolution, the different like your tune lines and stuff are going to look. Right, so we're not really seeing, like, our tune lines are very thin here, even with 2000 by 2000. So let's increase that even higher. Let's go tune. I mean, Tune Shader renders pretty quick, so we can do something pretty high here. The problem with that, like I said, is your tune lines are very resolution dependent. So the higher your resolution, the smaller your tune lines are going to be, essentially, which is good. I actually don't think it looks too bad. If you do want to increase them, what you have to do is go into your contour, and so we can bump these up. They're originally at 2, so if we bump these up, you could go really high, right, like 10. But we don't want to go that high. Maybe 3, something like that. I think 2. I think the original width looks pretty good. All right. Hope you guys had a good night. Happy Halloween. Hope you enjoyed the stream, the few of you who tuned in, and I will see you next time.